Bleach Rebirth of Souls is the next big addition to the anime fighter genre, but this game is worlds apart from any arena fighter we've ever seen before. If you were confused about the way this game is going to work like I was, I'm going to break down every system mechanic that we know about currently so you can be fully prepared for the launch of Bleach Rebirth of Souls. Let's get started. First things first, there's a few terms to learn that will make understanding the game and this video 100 times easier. The first and most important term is Konpaku. Similar to Smash Bros, Konpaku refers to the 9 stocks that each player starts the round with. The main goal in battle is to break all 9 of your opponent's stocks to win the match. But how do you go about actually taking Konpaku from your opponent? You do so by depleting their Reishi. If you're a Bleach enjoyer, then you know that in the anime, Reishi is essentially the life force of all things, and in Rebirth of Souls, it's no different. In this game, your Reishi is your health bar. Each time you fully deplete your opponent's Reishi meter, you're able to break a minimum of 2 other stocks, or Konpaku, and put yourself closer to winning the match. Once your opponent's Reishi bar falls to below 30%, you're able to use a Kikon move or a super attack to fully deplete their health. There are more mechanics that relate to these 3 terms, but this should serve as a baseline to help you understand everything I'm going to break down in the rest of the video. But knowing these terms is useless if you don't even know what's happening on your screen. So let's talk about meters. If you take a look at this freeze frame from the match screen, you'll notice this game has a ton of meters, 7 of them in total. Starting from the top, we have the Konpaku meter, which shows how many stocks you currently have left in your match. Moving down to the left, we have the Rising Spirit gauge. The Rising Spirit gauge is constantly building during the match and has 3 different stages: Evolution, Sublimation, and Spirit Drive. There isn't a ton of information on the last 2 stages right now, but we do know that once the Rising Spirit gauge fills once, you'll be able to evolve your character. Evolution will mean different things for different characters, but what we do know is that they'll come with an animation, and they'll change your character's abilities and moveset in some way. For example, when base Ichigo reaches his evolution, he'll enter his Bankai form. Moving to the right, we have our Reishi meter, which is your health bar, and just underneath it is your guard meter. After blocking a certain amount of damage, your guard meter will be completely depleted and you'll enter a guard break state where you're open to taking damage. The guard meter will refill itself over time while you're not blocking, and there are other character abilities and game mechanics that can either speed up the recovery of your guard meter or replenish it all at once. While dealing damage to your opponent, your combo meter will pop up on the side of the screen. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Just keep hitting your opponent before your combo meter runs out to keep your combo going. And moving into the bottom corner of your screen, you have the spiritual pressure meter in yellow and the reverse meter in white. Using your character's spiritual pressure moves will cost you a part of your spiritual pressure meter, and using a reverse action will cost you part of your reverse meter. But spiritual pressure moves and reverse actions are only 2 of the many combat options you need to know about in this game, so let's talk about offense. Bleach Rebirth of Souls combat is based around a rock paper scissors like system of attacking, guarding, and breaking. We don't have a lot of information about break attacks, but I'm pretty sure there's some sort of chargeable heavy attack that breaks your opponent's guard. As for the other offensive options, each character in this game has their own light combo, a flash combo, a signature move, 2 spiritual pressure moves, and at least 1 super attack or Kikon move. Light combos are basically a series of quick attacks that deal lower amounts of damage, and flash combos are heavier attacks that do bigger damage to your opponent. Signature moves are unique to every character, don't cost any spiritual pressure meter, and add some sort of utility to each fighter's game plan. And spiritual pressure moves are your character's special moves that do cost a portion of your spiritual pressure meter. Chain reverse can be used to extend combos at the cost of your reverse meter, but I'll go over that more in depth in the section dedicated to the reverse system. That's pretty much the basics of actually hitting your opponent, but knowing your offensive options means nothing if you're just getting pummeled the whole game. So let's talk about defense. There isn't a whole lot to go over in terms of defensive options, but it's important to know that you can't just block the entire time. Like I talked about earlier, the amount of time you can spend blocking is limited by your guard meter. Once it's completely depleted, your guard will be broken, and you'll be eating a full combo from your opponent. Not to mention there's a bunch of attacks and character abilities in the game that either instantly break your guard or deplete your guard gauge more rapidly. But depending on your character, you'll have defensive options like counterattacks and vanishes that you can use to avoid damage. You can also spend reverse meter to break your opponent's combo with a burst reverse, but that option won't always be available to you. So what are you supposed to do if your character has little to no defensive options and you have no reverse meter to spend? You leverage your movement. This game has a ton of movement options that you can use to avoid damage and put yourself in a position to do damage. Starting with the universal movement options, you can walk, run, dash, and sidestep in 8 different directions. You can also do a flash step counter to evade and get behind your opponent, or a follow-up flash step to extend your combos. Both of these options seem to cost about half of your reverse meter. There also seems to be some sort of downward dodge in the game, but I wasn't able to find much information about it out there. Now, as you may have seen in some of the gameplay footage out there, you are able to move around in the air. but it seems like you can't actually position yourself in the air, but rather end up there after being hit by certain attacks or abilities. On top of all these options, some characters have their own movement mechanics that can be used to get the upper hand on your opponent. Before we move on to the next section of the video, I just want to quickly recap everything we've learned about the reverse system. You can spend your reverse meter to do a flash step counter, a follow-up flash step, or one of the 3 reverse actions. And the effects of these reverse actions will change depending on the situation you use them in. If you activate reverse action in neutral, you'll get a soul reverse. Soul reverse grants you health regeneration and enhances your movement. If you activate reverse action while comboing your opponent, you'll be able to extend your combo with a chain reverse. And if you activate your reverse action while your opponent's comboing you, it'll break their combo and blow them back. Now I know I just threw a ton of information at you and it might be a bit confusing at the moment, but the next mechanic I'm going to teach you about ties everything together. Let's talk about the Konpaku system. Every other system mechanic in the game revolves around your Konpaku or your stocks. Like I said before, the goal of every match is to break all 9 of your opponent's Konpaku so you can win. During a match, you'll take a minimum of 2 Konpaku from your opponent every time you deplete their Reishi meter. And you're able to take up to 6 or maybe even more depending on how optimized your offense is and what character you're playing. When your opponent's health bar falls to 30% or less, the remaining health will turn red. At this point, if you use a super attack on your opponent, you'll take away their remaining HP and break the minimum 2 stocks. Instead of using a super attack, if you continue to combo your opponent and completely deplete their health bar, you'll put them into what's called the soul break state. When this happens, your super attack will come out on its own, and you'll break an extra stock. So instead of the minimum 2, you'll take 3 instead. Things start to get a bit uncertain from here, but it seems like once you've evolved your character, you'll be able to break an extra stock, and it also seems like certain characters will have their own ways of increasing the amount of stocks that they can break at once. For example, when base Ichigo activates a reverse action, he's able to break an extra stock. I'm sure your brain's about to explode from all the concepts that I just taught you, so feel free to come back to this video anytime you have questions about how this game works. I'll make sure to add timestamps so you can skip around to any of the different concepts you want to learn about. If you learn anything new, make sure to like and subscribe so you can become a card-carrying member of the Sevv Syndicate. And if you need help figuring out which version of the game to buy, you can watch my buyer's guide right here. Thanks so much for watching.